Playoff mood around the Maple Leafs at Monday's practice. Chris Johnston, it was a focused, intense practice, but we still have a handful of days before we finally get to game one between the Leafs and the Habs. Just what is the mood around the Leafs right now? I'm sure they're anxious to get going, but we do know they still have plenty of days to go.
It almost feels a little bit like a mini training camp that the Leafs are able to have here with this 5-day break. Before the start of their playoff series, Shawn, there's been a little bit more intensive work on their power play, which I think is understandable given the way it struggled in the back half of the regular season. They've talked about, wiping the slate clean. They're back to 0 for 0 in the postseason in terms of how effective they've been there. Some long practices, as you mentioned, and even a little bit of conditioning type of work. We saw them doing crushers at the end of practice on Sunday. So, I think that they've sort of tried to hit the refresh button. They prefer certainly to be playing. That much was clear. Auston Matthews said it sucks waiting, but they're getting a little bit closer here as the rest of the league gets going under its playoffs.
And we're also getting a lot closer to seeing what that game one lineup will look like for the Maple Leafs. A few guys are getting healthy. They'll get a couple guys back in the lineup. But what does it look like, and maybe what surprised you the most about that Leafs game one lineup that we expect it to be?
Well, this is an unusual set of circumstances. I mean, you got Riley Nash due to make his Leafs debut on Thursday night in game one. He has never played for the Leafs ever. At least he does have experience. He was with Columbus last year when they played the Leafs in the bubble. He played for Boston a couple seasons ago in a series against the Leafs, so he's been around the league. But, he was acquired at the trade deadline while having a sprained knee, is only now going to re-enter the lineup. You have a similar situation with Zach Hyman, of course, very familiar with his Leafs teammates and the spot that he's going to occupy alongside Auston Matthews and Mitch Marner. But, he's been out for a month with his own knee issue. So, this is kind of an unusual season, an unusual start to the playoffs. I do think that, Sheldon Keefe likes having Riley Nash there as his third line center in order to have almost a line where nothing happens on the ice, kind of a neutralizer type line and leave the scoring up to the top six for Toronto. So, that is taking shape, and it does appear that we're going to have kind of a different start to this playoffs because of the circumstances around this season.
Now, we know the Habs are going to want to play a physical brand of hockey against the Leafs. Are the Leafs more capable of dealing with that this season than years past?
They believe so. I mean, Sheldon Keefe's saying that he wants to see his own team's physicality go up. But I do think they're also going to try to play through it. If you're on the Montreal side of things, I think you're thinking, well, if we get some penalties, the Leafs power play hasn't exactly been humming along. But, I think the Leafs do believe that if they, get into that kind of series, that they're best to give it back a little bit, but also to take it and take, some of the penalties that might come with that kind of play. But, I think it's reasonable to expect that. I know Montreal started their little mini series here with a huge battle drill at their first practice. So, that's kind of how this lines up. The Leafs have the skill. Montreal's got a little bit more meat in its lineup, and the Leafs feel that they can counteract that with some of the changes they've made here in the last year.
Well, Chris, I know the Leafs players are anxious to get things started. I'm sure there are